Hello, guys. Welcome back to That Cov Pod. And luckily for you listeners, not going to have to listen to me too much today because we've got our first real megastar interview. I'll give you the big billing there, Andy, because our first guest as an interviewee on That Cov Pod is the final ever goal scorer at Highfield Road, Andy Whing. Andy, how are you getting on?
I'm very well, thank you. Yourself?
Very good, thank you, mate. We're going to talk all about your time at Coventry and then your managerial career that is going pretty well so far at the end of the podcast. But let's go back to the very start. How did you end up signing for Cov's Academy as a kid?
Um, I played for sort of a local team in Birmingham. I had trials at sort of Birmingham City and Derby. And I was at the time I got one of my friends got so I got scouted like in a five side, and one of my friends was at Coventry, and I didn't really hear back. And they asked, if I could come training at Coventry. I was on trial at Derby County at the same time, so fair play to my mum really, who took me to, I think it was Derby on a Tuesday and Thursday evening from Birmingham, then on a Monday and Wednesday, or Wednesday and Friday at Coventry. So fair play to her for driving all those miles every pretty much every day of the week or every night of the week. And luckily they wanted to sign me. I was about 12 years old. I think Richard Money was the academy manager. I had Bob Hazel as my manager. I think I've had Brian Burrows, Dave Boost in like 15, 16s. Loved it, to be fair. I had a really good group. I think only the late Peter Whittingham was in my group at that time. I don't think anyone else from that group went on. But yeah, we had a really good group, and yeah, luckily from then, obviously, I got to 16. Thought I was nailed on for a scholarship at the time, and got released. Unfortunately, got released at the time at 16. Um, but I think they bought, because I had a real big connection with Irish players at the time. A couple of clubs in Ireland, Cherry Orchard, I think it was at the time. But we had 10, I think, from my age group that came over for that age group. So there's only then real what, two, three spaces left, a couple of spaces left, and at the time I wasn't one of them, which was frustrating, really. Because I thought I'd done really well. I thought I was kind of nailed on to get a scholar. And then I had to go out back into like school team, exit trials, etc. Training, like trialing for here, there, and everywhere. Done really well at the exit trials. Scored a goal somehow. Not, I didn't score many in my career, but scored one in the exit trial. So I had a few clubs after me. Um, Went on a few trials. I remember Notts County saying, you've got no chance, stick to school kind of thing. So it's not nice to hear at 15, 16 years old, but you crack on. I think I ended up at Colchester, and they were brilliant with me, to be fair. I was staying down there training with, I think I'd have probably signed for them really. A long way from home. And then I got a call from I think it was Trevor Gould, actually. I got a call just to say, like, we think we've made a mistake. Would you come back? Um, I was at Colchester, 3 hours down the road, Coventry City, half hour down the road. I knew everyone there. Um, so I said yes, and yeah, then ended back at Cov when I was 16 after getting released.
Do you think that kind of setback almost helped you in the long term, though?
Oh, massively, yeah. Yeah, because I was a pretty kind of quiet kid at school, really. I only got by really because I had ginger hair for a start. So luckily I've got none now. It's just all on my beard. But luckily then I had football to kind of fall back on. So I was quite, because of that, you kind of get through school and stuff. So I was pretty quiet. Anyway. And I think that setback really helped me. I think it gave me kind of a thicker skin. Even within that, like I said, I went to Notts County, and I pulled my mum to one side and said, look, he ain't good enough. I'd send him back to school and make sure he's good at school, because football's not going to be for him. So I think that period really helped me in terms of, right, I'm going to show you kind of, sort of mentality. That work Cov, I don't know, I went back to Cov. I don't know if they made a mistake or they seen the interest I was getting. I don't know what their decision was for bringing me back. Luckily it worked out out for me in that way. But yeah, it would definitely give me a little bit more resilience. And anything from then on, I was kind of right. I'll show you now, if you know what I mean. And yeah, luckily it went well from there, really.
Yeah, absolutely. What was kind of the academy slash first team experience like when you were a youngster then, like the environment and everything around that?
Well, completely different now. Obviously, what a couple of years ago, well, 4 or 5 years ago, I was the 18s coach at Coventry City, and they're at a separate site at the Higgs. Um, and they don't really get to see the first team a lot. It's quite separate. And I found that quite tough. Kind of not to manage, but I felt, I thought the lads were missing out on, what I seen. I lived at the lodge. I lived at the lodge for 2 years. I lived upstairs, where the canteen and that is now. There was what 10 dormitories. So I lived and breathed football at the time. Stayed there for 2 years. Obviously with a lot of characters, Irish lads. Looking at the youth teams above, they were brilliant. Um, but then I was in around the first team. I was doing their kit. I was head kit boy or kit boy. Obviously, you had jobs back then: boot boy, kit boy. Then I think Craig Pead on with now. He used to do the showers and the baths, the big baths and stuff. There was cleaning of the canteen. So we had kind of different roles and responsibilities in that. Mine was kit. You had to knock on the change room door before you went in. You couldn't just walk into the first team room. Otherwise, they'd let you have it. But it was a great environment to, even though I was quite a shy kid, I didn't really want to get in trouble or anything like that. I just kept myself to myself, just seeing them close up, how they worked, how they lived, the way they spoke, the way they trained. It was just a great environment at the time. I was a little bit probably nervous and just tried to stay away with him. But I think looking back at it, you picked up so much to be around those, and it's different now. It's just under 18s and a 23s and first team. Then it was under 17s, under 19s. Then you had like your reserve team, first team. So there's a lot of players within that kind of. If you look at the lodge now, I think there's probably about 30 to 40 youth team players from 17 to 19, because it was like a 3 year scholarship at the time, like in one changing room. Um, and you kind of like, again, you had to have thick skin. You had to be, wary of your surroundings, what you say, and all that sort of stuff. Then you had the first team on top of it. So it was a really busy place to get lost in. But you learn so much in the way watching people how they trained, how they talked, all that sort of stuff. So a brutal environment, but a really good environment to learn a lot different. So like, especially for me, I was 2 3 years behind the youth cup teams. They were unbelievable in terms of your Gary McSheffrey's, your Craig Peads, your Robert Betsy's, all them. They Callum Davenport's. I looked up to them because they were brilliant in the youth teams. And then to share a dressing room with them and how they acted. They were pretty brutal at times, but it was really good to learn from them. So it's a completely different environment to what it is now. Obviously, you have no jobs. You're kind of away from the first team. You probably get away with a lot more. The sort of holistic sort of approach to football is what it is now, and players can't really take what we had to take back then, which is fine. But
Mhm.
I still think I had a great grounding, and it's made me who I am now. I think I'm quite thick-skinned. I get on with people. I learn in a tough environment, but I learned from really, really good people. That was the main thing. The staff were great, brutal but great at the same time. We had some fantastic staff and like kit men or the coaches or anything like that. We had a really good mix, really good players, and it was a great environment to be in, really to learn from as well.
You mentioned some of the kind of star players in the youth teams, a couple of levels above, but what about Gary McAllister? Because obviously he was a massive influence at the club at that time. What role did he have on you, and what kind of influence did he have on your career?
Oh, Well, he gave me my debut, so he was absolutely massive, for me personally in my career. Gave me my opportunity. I played with him as well in games, and just to play with a player like that was brilliant. Again, to watch him, he was what 39, 40 years old at the time. I'm 40 years old now, and I've let myself go a little bit. He was fit as a fiddle, could play, still be unbelievable in training, pre-season, one of the fittest. Um, Obviously, playing with that type of caliber of player was unbelievable as well. But as a manager, he was brilliant. He helped me give me my debut. I didn't have an agent at the time. It was a little bit different then as well. So like me and my mom went in to sort of discuss terms, and I wasn't going to ask for anything. It was just like whatever he said, whatever he put in front of me, I was going to accept. But he was really good for me. Looked after me. Yeah, I appreciated what he did, massively. To be fair, same as a lot like your Richard Shaws, those type of players were, your Stephen Hughes. That they were when I first went into the team. They were brilliant for me as well.
Also, want to talk about some of those names you mentioned in terms of McSheffrey, Craig Pead, who obviously you're close with still, Michael Doyle, Stephen Warnock, all those kind of players that were part of the changing room when you were in the first team. Any stories from that dressing room or training that you can share with us from some players that Cov fans think very fondly of from back in the day?
Um, to be fair, there was, as I said, I grew up in that kind of, um, on the 17s and 19s, and there was like 30, 40 lads in a changing room. We had like blue bin, laundry bins. You sometimes you'd end up in one of them and being pushed around the changing room.
Who was in the laundry bin the most? It wasn't you,
Um,
surely.
I, I'm not too sure. I was one of them players who just stayed like stuck in the corner of the room, out of the way. I've got ginger hair. My last name's Wing. I'm gonna get stick from if I opened my mouth and said the wrong thing. I knew that I was gonna get stick, so I kind of just watched from afar, really. Um, and all those type of like stories in terms of you probably can't go into too much detail because it was quite a place to be in those, especially. Obviously Craig Peas. We had like obviously Knight, like Scott Shearer, Callum Davenport, Gary McSheffrey, Scott. I kind of tagged myself onto them for nights out. They were like, even sort of like Saturdays, Tuesday nights we were out. It's a really, really good crowd. Um, Probably can't tell you too many stories. I think there was a trip in Germany that I can't go into too much detail about when we ended up in a lot of trouble just through and that was probably McAllister and a kind of an Eric Black era where we got into a bit of trouble there, probably drinking too much. Um, but just in terms of they were top professionals as well. Do you know what I mean? Just to learn from them. They worked hard, they played hard. We had some really good nights out of a weekend, etc. But it was that was the culture back then. Everyone kind of half did it really.
Do you
Obviously, we had
think
10 Irish lads that I lived with as well.
do you
In
think
the lodge.
football's lost something from that kind of era? I know it's much more professional now, standard fitness, nutrition, all of those things have gone up, but has football lost something?
I think so, yeah, massively. Because if you look back then, I think we were a lot more robust as well. I think you had to be. I think because the environment what you were in, you kind of had to be robust. If you look at you only really the top players, like your Messi's, Ronaldo's, who play pretty much week in, week out, Salah's, etc. Van Dijk's, there's a lot of players now that, aren't robust, and don't play as many games. I was probably too robust in the early part of my career. I played through loads of injuries, and that caught up with me at the back end of my career just because I wanted to play week in, week out. Um, but I do think mentality, robustness, a lot of that has gone out the game, and I think because and the environment, you couldn't be a shrinking violet in that environment. You couldn't, if the first team said you were going out, you had to go out. Funny enough, I remember my first ever night out. I think I was. Gary Caldwell was playing at the time. He's the manager of Exeter City. Was buying me Sambuca all night, and I crawled out of the place. Literally crawled out of the place. But he was a first team player, and I pretty much did whatever they said. Really, I probably drank too much, and I was crawled out the nightclub.
We've all
But
been there.
those experience, yeah, most people have, but those experiences were great, really. Just to spend time with like experienced pros. And I just think it's lacking a little bit now in terms of yes, there's nutrition. Yes, there's lads get everything under the sun now, but that robustness, that mentality's probably gone away a little bit. If players get injured or get pick up little knocks quite often now. Then they're out for 2, 3 weeks, and as a manager, the last couple of years, that's kind of probably been the most frustrating thing is the robustness of players. And I do think that sort of change in mentality 10, 15 years ago has gone out the game a little bit. Yeah, and the robustness and that is lacking at the minute.
Yeah, absolutely. Think I agree with that as well. I want to talk to you a bit about your relationship with Craig Pead, and I know you're going for a drink with him after this, so maybe some kind words about him. It doesn't seem like you can get rid of him, but your working relationship seems to be going well. Still good mates on and off the pitch. How's that relationship kind of blossomed as a management kind of duo?
Yeah, brilliant. Like obviously, Craig's dad George as well. George Pead was the kit man at the time as well. So I obviously known George and known Craig. Obviously played with Craig. Obviously early part of my career at Cov in the first team. Watched him obviously and got on nights out of him when I was a youth team player, etc. And when I broke into the first team, you Gary McSheffrey's, Callum Davenport, Scott Shearer's, Craig Peads. Then you've got Michael Doyle and Warnock and all them type of players. They're a couple of years older than me, but obviously I latched onto them. Brilliant, brilliant, great lads would do anything for you. Really good banter, great on nights out. And then obviously you go and do your own thing, don't you? In terms of, Craig went to Warsaw, Brentford, etc. I went to Brighton, sort of Oxford, Leyton Orient and places like that. So you kind of do your own thing, and then you still keep in contact. You might see each other out or etc. And then I got the manager's job at Banbury, and I just Peter had always said about obviously, he was coaching at Coventry City under 14s, I think it was. He did a bit with the women at Warwick Uni, so I always knew he wanted to get into coaching. We talked about it, and when I got the Banbury job, it was through COVID, and we only played about 10 games for like through that COVID year. Then in the summer of that year, I was sort of like I needed like sort of a new assistant manager or a new coach with me. Um, I spoke to Petey quite a lot. So this was like 2001. So then he came on board, and ever since then we've had pretty much success together. The first season we were together. We won the league by about 20 odd points. I think it was step three at the time. We won the league. We had over 100 points. Won the league by 20 odd points. Played in the FA Cup first round, were on TV, etc. Second season, National League North. The club had never been there before in its like entirety. Managed to stay up, which was brilliant. So we had success there. Then obviously me and Craig. Then we kind of moved on to Solihull. That was obviously last season. Another fantastic season. Ended up at Wembley twice. Playoff final, just missing out on penalties. FA Trophy, just missing out on penalties, which was gutting. But with expectations of last season, we're sort of mid-table. To exceed expectations and do kind of carry on what we left from Banbury was brilliant. And now we've got another opportunity in League Two with Barrow. So we've moved up 4 leagues in 4 years, which is unbelievable, really, if you think about our trajectory. And it's great to do it with Craig. He's a top bloke, obviously, real good coach. And obviously it works that well that we kind of we get on really well together. We're going for dinner in a minute. Like so, we spend a lot of time with each other as well. So we have to kind of like each other, especially now we're living in hotel rooms and stuff in Manchester. So it's yeah, it's been really good. And sometimes I'm a little bit sort of pessimistic or a little bit pragmatic, and he's the opposite, a little bit probably more positive, etc. in terms of how we want to go about things. So we work really well in terms of that, how we align in terms of what we want to do with football and stuff as well. But ultimately we're really good people. We've got families, and we care about family, friends, and all that sort of stuff. And we want the best for each other. We want the best for our families, and it's worked really well.
It's genuinely so nice to hear a story where you've kind of grown up together almost and still working together. We will get back on to Barrow later on in this episode, but I do want to ask you about Eric Black as well during your time at Coventry, because I think maybe not recent history, but it feels like he was a manager who was sacked too early at Cov. Was it a bit of a shock to the players when he left? How did you kind of feel about that?
Yeah, really, really shocked. I think especially the way how he took over with obviously Gary McAllister. That was such a shame at the time. He was a top manager and had to leave obviously because of personal issues. Um, so Eric Black kind of took over in that span, and he was absolutely brilliant. A real, like Gary McAllister was kind of the tactical sort of side. So was Eric. But like if Eric was to sort of have a go at you'd know about it kind of thing. He was the he definitely um sort of let you know that if you're doing anything wrong or let you know you've got to be better. But I thought he done really, really well when he was manager. There's at times when I didn't play. I think he brought in Archie Knox at the time as well, who'd worked with at Man United and under Sir Alex Ferguson, and he was again hard taskmaster, but absolutely brilliant for me as well. Just teaching me sort of obviously the arts of defending, winning headers. I remember in a car park once Archie Knox is going through me about winning headers, etc. Funny enough, we were all at I think was it the Saxon Mill pub in Warwickshire. I think we were all there I think it was a Sunday. We had the Monday off, and we was all just having a drink. Um, like a players' day out. It was actually the weather was lovely. We had a few drinks right by the river there. Really nice day, and the lads started getting messages through saying, Eric Black's left, and I think Peter Reid coming after,
Hmm.
and ultimately we were really really shocked as a group. We didn't see it coming. Um, we obviously respected Eric Black massively. I think he was a top guy and a top coach. Done really well for us, and we didn't really expect it at all. And then he was replaced. I think I'm sure it was by Peter Reid then.
It was Peter
Um,
Reid, yeah. It felt like a missed opportunity almost in that kind of period, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it didn't really work out then going forward in terms of Peter Reid come in. Again, a fantastic guy, and a fantastic manager in his own right. His own right. I don't think we were probably the right club for him at the time. I think we needed a bit more. I think we were kind of still in that sort of hangover from coming down from the Premier League. The squad was massively changing. A lot more younger players were coming into the team, sort of there was a massive influx of players coming and going. We needed probably a little bit more stability then, and I thought Eric Black was that man because he'd gone from sort of Gary McAllister, obviously working under him, and he brought that stability with us. And I think we lost that then for a little while in terms, or the club lost that, and I think it just shows. He went on to worked with Gary again, I think, didn't he? And he was working under Steve Bruce. He was at Villa, he's at Birmingham City, and wherever else he worked at. So he's obviously a top coach to be working in for those roles. So it definitely was a missed opportunity. And at the time, we were really shocked and surprised that the club did that. And I think it was go obviously in hindsight, it was probably a big mistake in terms of, because obviously the next manager didn't really go well, and then we had to change again the next season.
Are there any kind of regrets from that period of your career? I'm talking at Coventry almost. Or in fact, should we get to that? Because that might coincide with you kind of leaving the club. Maybe we should talk about the moment I think everyone wants to hear you talk about, Andy. A certain goal you might have scored the last ever day at Highfield Road. I just want to get your take on it as a player to experience that, and then not only to experience it, but score the final ever goal for a right back. And what a hit!
Yeah, I think that is definitely it for a right back. I think Gary McSheffrey said exactly the same thing. He was devastated that I scored it. I don't think he forget. Like I see Macca quite obviously good mates with Peady, so we see each other quite a lot. And I still don't think he's forgiven me for scoring that goal. Let's drop the limelight off him a little bit because he Cov legend, Coventry lad, striker. It should have been him, shouldn't it? Really, but unfortunately, it was me. It was kind of a weird, leading up to that. I weren't really in the team. Um, Mickey Adams probably. We didn't really kind of hit it off in terms of, um, he brought in a couple of right backs, sort of, so I was never really in the team. I was kind of in and out. Started really well, then kind of in and out. So I was on the bench of that game. I think Richard Duffy was playing, which is absolutely fine. But yeah, it was a difficult time for me in terms of I'd started really well as a young lad, 18, coming into the first team, playing week in, week out. Then I kind of hit a little bit of a wall really. I weren't really getting as many games as I wanted. I was coming off the bench or starting the odd game there here and there, and I didn't really get the rhythm that I probably needed at that point in my career. So I was on the bench that game. So yeah, it was a fantastic day. I know I've said this story a million times, but I enjoy sort of recounting that day because it was such a good day in terms of well, we needed to win because we were right down there. I think we were left in a sort of precarious position in the league. We needed to. I think if we won that game, we were safe. But it was still kind of on a knife edge, so we needed to win that game. The weather was unbelievable. Obviously Jimmy Hill, the fans were. It was packed out. And obviously the way the game went, Maka scoring, obviously Stern. You've got Dele Adebola, Klaus Jorgensen. Um, Scoring fantastic goals, and we absolutely blitzed them, really, didn't we? So it was 5-2 when I come on the pitch. I think I'm only coming on the pitch really just to see the game out as a right back. I went on as a right winger, just to kind of two defensive players down that side, just to try and see the game out. Obviously back up my right back sort of thing, and just see the game out really. So when that I think it was Steve Staunton or Marcus Hall. I can't remember who it was now. Put a ball in. I think it's like flicked on 2 or 3 times. I think Dealey's tried to flick it on. Stearns tried to flick it on. And it's just ended up, absolute perfectly for me. And then I've just, I probably just closed my eyes and hit it as much. I can't really remember that moment. I've just tried to strike it as hard as I can towards the goal, really. I think it took a slight deflection, but it was always going top bins, top corner anyway. And then when that went in, it was just pandemonium. Then I didn't really know what to do. I think my first goal I scored I only scored 2 goals for the club, but my first goal I scored for the club was against Nottingham Forest, and I remember scoring, and I was absolutely buzzing. I think I ran into the crowd and got booked. So this one was a little bit different. I ran round the goal, high five, and everyone. The Mad Hatters were there as well. My family were in that corner, so when I went round the goal, my family were kind of in that corner by the corner flag as well. So that was a night I actually ended up there and obviously waved to them, etc. And I think even the lads were pretty surprised when they come over to celebrate. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing up there for a start, let alone scoring a goal like that? So, yeah. And then obviously I can't remember any. Like, usually I'm really good in um, remembering everything from games. I could sort of recount most things, or little snippets of what I did and I can't remember anything after that goal. Then the final whistle's gone. I think we've gone back into the changing room. Then we've come back out to obviously wax, because it was the last game of the season, well, a home game of the season. So you do kind of lap of honour kind of thing. And Richard Shaw said something about obviously he scored the last goal at Highfield Road. I didn't really realise until that point. Even then, I didn't really realise. I just moved house as well, so that night I was having like a housewarming party. Um, so I was obviously buzzing to get back to that. To be fair, I'm only like 19, 20 years old. I'm buzzing to have my housewarming party. But when I got back home, I remember this housewarming party. Everyone that come in at Sky Sports, I must have replayed it a million times. Um, and it was yeah, great feeling, obviously, and it's brilliant that it gets brought up, every sort of I think it's around this. It was like February the 20th or late around this kind of time.
Hmm.
Whenever it was 2005, I think it was. So yeah, it's great to sort of recount it all the time. But it was just a special feeling, special day, and for everyone to remember that goal was probably the highlight or one of the highlights of my career, really.
You telling me there's not a tiny part of you that thought when you were told to warm up, hey, I'm going to have a dig here. I really fancy this. Look at this crowd. I fancy this. That would have been
Not
me.
really, not at all. Not I would sort of like I'm a kind of a defender in. in every sense of the word, really. Even now, I've still got that defending mindset, that defender's mindset. Um, so I would never thought I'd get a chance, let alone to score a goal like that. Especially the occasion. It was 5-2 in my head, and I still do it now. That hopefully I don't come on and it's 5-5, and I'm like, it's my fault that we've conceded through three goals or whatever. So that's my only thought is don't do anything stupid. Come on, see the game out, and then everyone has a great day, and we kind of move on to the next one. So I never thought in a million years that I'd have scored a goal like that. So yeah, it was a fantastic feeling. Just the day was unbelievable. The weather, the 6-2, the way the game went, it couldn't have gone any better. For Gary McSheffrey, it would have been better if he'd have scored the last goal, but unfortunately for him, it was me.
Surprised he's not claimed he got a nick on your shot and it went
Yeah, he
in.
probably would have. To be fair, he would have.
Well done, by the way, for producing. I know you say you can't remember it, for producing a celebration so iconic. I mean, that image of you high-fiving all the fans for someone who didn't score many goals,
Yeah.
that moment was just absolutely heroic. Do you kind of still have your shirt or any memorabilia from that day?
Yeah, so the shirt, I think, funny enough, I've got my debut shirt, but I've still got my shirt that I scored that day. I haven't framed that. I need to frame that. What I have got though is someone's done like a caricature sort of drawing, and it's unbelievable to be fair, of like my celebration behind the goal and everyone else. So that's proudly on the wall. But yeah, I need to get that shirt up on the wall. Obviously the yeah, even the pictures from it. Obviously, the pictures when I'm striking the ball. I don't think I've ever hit a ball as sweet as that, or how it looked anyway. The celebration behind the goal as well. Obviously, my name. There's a picture of the name, and obviously the fans. Like when I'm sort of going along the line with my arms out. Just a perfect like celebration goal. Just the whole day was unbelievable, really, and yeah, proud and obviously buzzing to have done that, really.
You telling me in your managerial career so far, when your strikers are struggling for goals, you haven't just got that clip up and been like, lads, if you just take a look at this, if you just strike it like this.
That's a good shout. To be fair, I should show that every pre-match meeting now from now on.
If Barrow start firing the goals in from 30 yards, you know why. It's all
Yeah,
down to you in
absolutely.
that video. Um, let's talk about the first season at the Rico as well and kind of what that was like. It's been kind of compared to moving house a little bit. Mickey Adams obviously in charge. I think we finished eighth that season. Again, was that a bit of a missed opportunity again? Was there a bit of a buzz around the squad? How was that season for you?
Yeah, I remember the start. I remember obviously the start of the season. Um,
The
was it?
3-0 against QPR, I think was the first.
Yeah,
Mick
yeah, it was.
Jorgensen.
Yeah, it's a close. It was. I mean, it's a fantastic. I mean, I always remember that game. I think we had a bit of a rocky pre-season. I don't think we won many games. I think it was this season. I don't. I think this was the IB for trip season as well, where that was completely carnage. We're playing on an AstroTurf pitch. The hotel was horrendous. I think the previous manager booked this, and Mickey Adams sort of took it on. The whole, I mean, I got player of the tournament, which was great though. IB for player of the tournament. I think it was us
Was that in a
QPR.
bar or was that actually on the football pitch?
No, unfortunately not in the bar. No, no, I probably let myself down again that trip. But I think it was Huddersfield, QPR, us, and a IB for town or something. And I managed to get player of the tournament in that. I think the fans were fighting in the crowd and all sorts. It was a complete disaster that sort of pre-season was. But we started off like a house on fire at home. Again, it was I weren't in I was on the bench. I was kind of one again. I wasn't really sort of playing that much again to start the season. I remember that QPR game though. Michael Doyle at his absolute best again. This is not on the pitch. This is in the tunnel before the game. I think it was Danny Shitu, their captain, and we're in the tunnel before the game. Doyle has said something to him, just nothing major, just trying to wind people up. I think this had come because we played QPR in the pre-season in Ibiza, where obviously the fact like the crowd, bit of crowd trouble. I don't know what happened. I think it started with there might have been a bit of trouble on the pitch. Um, I think some things were said on the pitch in Ibiza, and I think that carried over a little bit into the tunnel before the game. So we're all lined up. A few words were exchanged in the tunnel, about this Ibiza trip, about whatever happened in that game. I can't recall exactly what happened, um, but the thing said, I remember being in the tunnel and watching it, and Danny Shitty was absolutely raging. I think he wanted to murder Doyler at this time. You know what Doyler's like? You'd want him on your team, you'd hate him if you weren't on your team. And I think Danny Shittu got sent off in really early on in that game. Um, so 1-0 to Doyler. Doyler had already won us the game in the tunnel that day, and I think obviously Clyde scored the first goal. I think we ran right that game. It's brilliant. I managed to get into the team. I think we drew with Sunderland. Um, the next game, I think it was. I think we beat Norwich at home as well, 3-0. Darren Hook, I marked Darren Hook a bit. He probably won't like this. I marked him out of the game that day, which was great. I hadn't done that before. I think he murdered me a couple of years before that, so I got my own back that game. Yeah, again, it was sort of a frustrating season for me personally. I wasn't really, I think I played 25, 30 games. But I wanted to play. I was probably fit all the way through that season. Wanted to play a lot more. Um, I don't think we're ever going to make the playoffs in that season, but we had a really good ending to the season. I think when Dennis Wise come in, he was unbelievable for us. I don't think he scored that many goals in his career in a short space of time. Everything I
The
think it was
overhead kick, right?
yeah, or
Oh,
Plymouth away. I think um, he scored so many goals towards the end of the season. We had a late burst for the playoffs, and we just missed out. I think till probably recently, where Mark Robbins got us into the playoffs. I think that was our probably our Cov's last or highest ever finish from since we got relegated from the Premier League until sort of recently. So um, I wouldn't say it was a missed opportunity because I don't think we was ever going to make the playoffs. I think we had a late surge and we just missed out in the end. But again, we didn't really build on that where we finished eighth. We didn't build on that last season. Again, probably changing manager. Um, and I think that was my last season. I think Ian Dabby come in. I got sent out on loan. Again, it was that was frustrating because I think I was probably in the team at the time. I played on I think Saturday against Plymouth. I think we drew 1-1. We weren't great, we're kind of mid to low table. It weren't brilliant. I got a phone call from Brighton to say like he's agreed that you're coming on loan to us, and I was completely surprised. No one had told me from the club, like Mickey Adams or anyone. So I went in obviously and said like, I've just had Brighton on the phone. What's happening? They want me to go down. Oh yeah, yeah. Forgot to mention. Yeah, you're going on loan at Brighton. I was like, all right, okay. So I just packed my bags and moved to Brighton. I got recalled. I think this was October time. I got recalled about January time. I think we were really struggling then. And I think Mickey Adams, I think, must have got sacked sort of end of January, February time in that sort of second Rico season. Ian Dowie came in. Again, I was in and out. Um, I think because I was a young lad come through the academy, I kind of my contract was up at the summer, so I kind of didn't really feature. He was looking on for the next season, brought his own kind of players in, so that was my end of my time there, really, which was obviously good, really gutty. It's probably that conversation. I think Ian Dowie and Tim Flowers. I probably got quite emotional because Coventry was all I ever known really. From 12 years old, I played in the first team. I'd loved playing for the club. Massive affiliation for the club. Didn't know anything different other than a brief spell at Brighton, which I loved to be fair. But I came back hoping to stay at Cov. So that was probably tough. But then luckily, because I had that loan spell at Brighton, I went to Brighton and played there for 3 or 4 years as well. So then, I kicked on from there really. But yeah, it was quite frustrating. Those first couple of years at the Rico, we never really kicked on. And then obviously, the couple of years later, all the trouble started behind the scenes in terms of Coventry having to move to Northampton, Birmingham City. And that must be heartbreaking for fans. Really a frustrating time for the club, and luckily that's all in the past now, and things are looking forward again.
they certainly are looking forward and looking up at the moment. Do you have any kind of regrets or frustrations from that time at Coventry? Anything you would have done differently, or is it just football?
I don't know about regrets. In hindsight, if I play better, I'm in the team every week. I don't know. You you can only live through that time, and at that time, you know, I thought I was doing the best I could. Obviously, different. I'm a manager now, and I see it that way, and I still see it, obviously me as a manager way. So I'm letting people down in terms of I'm not playing players. Um, so at the time, I'm thinking, I should be playing. Every footballer wants to play, but different. Obviously because of change of managers, they have different ideas. They want to bring different players into the football club. It probably was. I'd been there, 11 years from 12 to 23, 24. It probably was the right time for me to move on. Um, I played under three or four, five different managers, so it probably was time for me to move on. And go and experience at a new football club. The football club had to move on in a different direction. Again, it probably didn't work out with, Ian Dowie, Chris Coleman. It kind of didn't really work out really until kind of Mark Robbins came back really. So it's probably the right time for me to move on. Probably the in hindsight, I probably haven't got any regrets though. I think it's just football at that time. Different managers had to move on and progress my career that way. And yeah, I'd have loved to have stayed, but it's probably the right time. And yeah, I moved on from there.
And your kind of group of players or players you played with at Coventry, Rob Page, Richard Shaw, yourself, Gary McSheffrey, Michael Doyle, have all kind of made moves into management. For you, what type of player makes a good manager, or does it not really matter?
I don't know. I don't know if it really matters, to be perfectly honest, because I don't think many of those people like would players I've played with, managers I've worked under would have said I was ever going to be a manager. Probably early on in my Cov days, um, no one would have said I would become a manager or a coach or anything like that. Probably my back end of my career, working under Chris Wilder at Oxford or Michael Appleton at Oxford. I worked under John Eustace at Kidderminster as well. Obviously played with him at Cov. I don't, I remember meeting Mickey Adams once and you can see why we didn't really get on that well. Like I even at an exit trials, I've gone full circle. I used to be playing in the exit trials. I think I was at Oxford at the time at an exit trial looking for players. So obviously roles reversed now. And I bumped into him. And he's like, "What? You're a coach? No?" Like he was completely like shocked by it. But it was because I retired quite early with injuries. Really, talk about robustness. I was I was robust as a kid, but probably back sort of mid to back end of my career. We're talking about players playing with niggles, and I was taking tablets, trying to play through the pain barrel when I should have probably not played at all. But that was just my character. I didn't want to let the manager down. I wanted to be available week in, week out, and eventually my body just gave way. My hips, my groins had like countless sort of operations, etc. So I retired quite early, and I was lucky enough to get into coaching at Oxford with Michael Appleton, and I was under 18s. And I think because I retired quite early, um, and you don't some when obviously football, it's all I've ever known. I didn't know what else I wanted to get. I've been into I've done jobs. I've worked at a sofa warehouse with my mate. I've delivered for 4 or 5 years ago. I've delivered for um, chemists, etc. I've tried various things, but football's you're in your blood, and the next best thing really is to be a coach or a manager. I was a coach under Russell Slade. I know he didn't have a great time at Coventry City, but a great bloke. I had him at Brighton and Leyton Orient, and I worked under him at Hereford. Learnt a lot from him. Obviously John Eustace, I was with him at Kidderminster Harriers at the start of his sort of managerial career. Loved working with him. We're still in contact now. I spoke to him the other day, obviously when he went to Derby, which is brilliant. Um, and I think he knew I wanted to be a manager there. And I think, you know, some manage, obviously some managers get opportunities where you're like 18s coach and then you get thrust into like a first team environment, or you're like a Fran Lampard. He's obviously done ridiculously well in management since, or Steven Gerrard or Wayne Rooney, who get managers jobs because obviously the level they played at. Other managers get thrown into things. They've been in 18s coaches, and then their manager gets sacked. They're interim, and then they get the job that way. We've kind of gone the other route in terms of we've had to start pretty not at the bottom, no disrespect to sort of non-league or step 7, 6, 5, whatever. We started at step 3. Um, I think we're at a place now in League Two where, we've learned a hell of a lot in 3 or 4 years. We've experienced a hell of a lot. We've gone through obviously 4 leagues, so different sort of challenges within each league, and I think that's massively helped us. I think if you look at Gary McSheffrey, I think he was, he'd tell you himself, he went into Doncaster as a manager of Doncaster, coming from the 18s or 23s, and thrust into it, and it's really difficult for without having that kind of experience working with director of footballs or people above you. It's really hard. I think because I've had that experience, sort of low, sort of step 3, step 2, step 1, and now in League Two. I think I had a good grounding of management, so we've kind of learned through the sort of leagues really. So it's hard for managers to get like Wayne Rooney's been thrust into jobs. Especially at a top level, there's no wiggle room then there's a lot of pressure on you straight away. Like there's obviously there's pressure in what it's starting at step 3, because if you fail here, you're going nowhere. You're done pretty much. Obviously, if you
Yeah.
fail there, you've still got you know Championship League One, League Two, and below. So I think that pressure of if you fail here, you're not going anywhere. I think that kind of pressure for me personally, or not going back into a warehouse, not going back into delivering for a chemist or whatever, that kind of pressure for me, drives me forward. Same with Peady as well. He's the same kind of boat. We don't want to go back to out of football or working part time in football. We want to make this our career, and I think that's massively helped us getting to where we are now into coaching.
It's really interesting hearing some of those names you've worked with already. It feels like you're still relatively young in your managerial career, but you've already worked with so many people with such great experience, which is clearly helping you out. Now, I want to obviously talk about your time at Solihull Moors because it was kind of a great success, it seemed from the outset, but had a really, really difficult ending. And you touched on it at the top of the show. 2 Wembley penalty shootout defeats in a handful of days. How difficult was that to deal with as a coaching staff, as on a human level as well?
Oh, massively. Like obviously expectations when I was really proud. I was my local club. I literally live around the corner from the ground. So it was a real honour to be given that. We've done really well at Banbury. So it's a massive honour to be given the Solihull Moors job. And expectations when we first went in weren't kind of um, can we sort of mid table to it was a complete rebuild. There was only 7 players contracted. Um, the sporting director Stephen Ward as well, who played for Wolves. He was new to the job as well, so we kind of come into the job, not really knowing the team. We had to rebuild the team. And then I think we went on a 15-16 game unbeaten run at the start of the season. It just really hit off. Our recruitment was really good. Under Joe Taylor, head of recruitment at the time, who was with me at Banbury. So, we had success at Banbury. He was head of recruitment at Banbury and Solihull. So we had that kind of success going forward as well. Um, we kind of had to change the team mid seasons because we lost a couple of players, sold a couple of players, and we bought good players in as well. And then we were really good then to the end of the season. Really confident going into every game. I think we found a system that suited. Obviously exceeding expectations. I don't think we dropped out the top 5 all season. Obviously, it's a difficult league to get promoted from, so it's only obviously top 1. And there's some real big spenders. I think because of um, sort of obviously budgeting rules start from obviously League Two. National League's a little bit different. I think you can, I'm not like you look at Wrexham, Stockport's, you can kind of spend what you want really. So some big hitters at the top of the league spend, outspend you. Our budget was probably mid-table. So we're massively exceeding expectations, but we had a really good group. And then to sort of the play, but then we got in the playoffs. We played Halifax, won at home, went to Barnet away, finished was second all season. They were like massive favourites to go and win the game. We went away from home and won 4-0, which is everything just went absolutely fantastic for us that day. But we were fully confident going into the game. And then we went to Wembley, and obviously got to Wembley for the second time. We'd already reached Wembley for the FA Trophy final. Um, I wish it had happened the other way around in terms of we
Yeah.
played the playoff final first, or we got to the playoff final first, or we knew we just focusing on that. Um, but it was an unbelievable experience. Obviously, getting there, the playoffs, getting into there as well. Like as a player, I had the most boring playing career ever. Never
You
got
scored the
relegated.
winning goal at Highfield Road, man.
Apart from that, that's what I mean. That's the absolute highlight. I didn't get higher or lower than that really. But never got promoted, never got relegated, never really had a playoff kind of hunt, or never really in the playoffs. Um, Going to management, win the league in the first season. Over 100 points. Second season, like FA Cup first rounds were on TV. So third season, we get to Wembley twice. So it's been like a roller coaster whirlwind, kind of, obviously always positive in kind of our managerial career so far. But I'd say after losing that penalty shootout in the playoff final, it's probably the worst experience I think I've ever had. Um, just because you know what it means to people. The chairman's been putting money into the football club for years. The sort of dedication of the backroom staff. No, I think we ended up losing a lot of staff members, like from the ground, hospitality, head of recruitment had to go. We lost the physio. It kind of you don't know, but at the time, like obviously you're not really being told these things because they try and keep it. You just concentrate on football, obviously. Um, but for us, the size of Solihull, to get into the football league would be unbelievable. Unbelievable. The infrastructure was there, even though we're massively punching above our weight to get so close. And for know that, not that I've let people down, but for because we the expectations weren't there. We exceeded them, but to get so close to a penalty shootout away from the football league, knowing how much money had been spent, how much dedication, staff members, and jobs were on the line at the time. So I felt that massively. I do with any job. When as a footballer, you know, I'm a fan myself, so I think you feel it a little bit different, and I felt it massively, and I think. I was distraught. I was really, like, I'm a kind of emotional guy. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I remember the next day I just broke down. I literally just broke down because, one, I got so personally on a personal level, we got so close to, being a manager in the football league. That's an amazing, considering where we started from 3 years ago. That would have been unbelievable. For the football club, how hard people worked. It was devastating. And then we had to go back to Wembley the week later, which I'd never played at Wembley. So these experiences are unbelievable. Um, but at that time, I know this sounds really kind of selfish and bad, but I didn't really want to go back at that time because it was such a heartache there. I just wanted to end the season there and kind of be done with it, really. But another amazing now we've got another amazing opportunity to go back to Wembley to go and enjoy it, just go and enjoy the occasion. But that week was really hard to get the players back up, get back up for another game because the devastation that get for them getting so close to be back into the football league, just it just brings a different sort of wealth really and different experience for everybody, for the club and personally. So it was hard to get the players back up. But the players were unbelievable that week. We were unbelievable in the game. Again, we should have won the game. We went 2-1 up, made a mistake for the goal. Then we go back to penalties. Um, we try and change as much as we can the penalty takers from the week before. But unfortunately, a lot of our best players went off in the. We talk about robustness. A lot of our best players and probably our penalty takers were on the bench and had to be taken off in the game due to tiredness, fatigue, whatever it was, cramp. Um, and unfortunately, this is heartbreaking. The same two players missed
Mm.
in the playoff final, missed in the FA Trophy final. We lost again on penalties. You literally couldn't make it up. You couldn't write it. And it was, it was a tough week. Like a great experience, don't get me wrong, but a real tough week for us in the end.
I mean, penalties and Wembley and Coventry don't go
God,
well that
and
together.
then and then I think Coventry was the same season, wasn't it? So
Yeah.
obviously, you had the Cov one, then you had us at Wembley twice. It was triple whammy really. It was it was a tough place to go, and for some reason I took the kids to an England game about a month later, and I think England lost to Slovenia 1-0 or something. I was like,
I'm never going
I
there
never want to
again.
come back to this place ever again. Yeah, so
Um,
not great memories of it.
yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Penalty shootout preparation, I imagine, as well, is kind of tough. Let's move on to your move to Barrow then. Obviously, only happened really fairly recently. Why Barrow and why was this the opportunity you wanted to take to leave Solihull?
Um, Obviously a difficult one because I'm close to home. He's a big factor. Look at John Eustace. With the Blackburn Derby decision, it's you know I've gone the opposite way. He'd gone closer to home a little bit. Um, but I just felt it was the right time. When the opportunity came up, um, it was kind of a difficult start to the season at Solihull Moors, really. From the outside looking in, we're doing really well. We were still in the playoffs, but it had kind of been a grind to get there. We weren't like the season before. Um, I don't think sort of recruitment was it was tough. We joined a lot of players joined sort of late in the summer. We lost probably the core of our team because they'd moved on because we'd done so well in the league. They'd moved on. Um, and we hadn't really gelled as a team. And it was a really tough league. There's loads of teams spending loads more than us. But because of what happened the season before, expectations were then through the roof. And we couldn't really, it was tough to kind of live up to them expectations. Even though I thought we are still overachieving in terms of the way the league was. We had a lot of injuries through the season to key players in key areas. We didn't have a number nine the whole season, so to be seventh in the league at that time, I felt we were overachieving. Me and Peady did it. Everyone, I think, outside looking in as well, but I think it was inside. It was quite the pressure was kind of on. And we'd lost a couple of games. We're still seventh, but we'd lost a couple of games. We played a couple more games than everyone else. So the pressure was on really. So when the timing wise for me personally, when this opportunity arose, and you say why Barrow, I'd had a lot of kind of like there's I'm in Northampton, like not that I'd gone in for these jobs, but I was high on their list in over a couple of jobs. Not that I was searching to leave, so that wasn't the case at all. I was really committed. It was my local club, desperate to do well. But when this opportunity came, I spoke to obviously the owners and the sporting director. Um, they had a really good squad and just struggling really to kind of just string results together. Um, it was a really. I just thought it was the right club at the right time. I think the timing was kind of obviously the pressures at Solihull and what knowing how close we got last year, and just that thought of, am I going to get an opportunity to if I stayed here, are we going to get the opportunity to go again? I know how fickle football is and how brutal football is. That 3, 4, two. Well, it might have been. I might have been under pressure at the time, or two or three more bad results. I'd have been under pressure myself. That's how precarious the job is. And I just thought it was, in terms of time, it was the right time to sort of move. I think the attraction of being a League Two manager as well. I think getting into that football league was a massive part for me.
Massive, isn't it? It is massive for
Yeah,
any manager and what you can potentially even go on to achieve.
yeah, massive. Like, so I've been really fortunate where what I've done so far, my managerial career. I don't. not many managers could say they've jumped 4 leagues in 4 years, and I've got like sort of like obviously only one promotion really, but I've been promoted myself. 4 leagues in 4 years, into League Two. And I just think he's a it's a good sized club in terms of I can go and improve. We think we've got we've had 6 games now. We've got a 50% win ratio. That we've won 3 in 6 games. Like we feel we could probably got a lot more than 3 wins, because we got 4 or 5 in that spell. So we feel like we're sort of turning the sort of tide. The team only had like 3 wins in sort of 18 before. So 3 and 6 is a great turnaround from us. We feel we can improve the squad. Um, Obviously we've got to get points as quickly as possible to stay clear of any worries of relegation. We probably need 2, 3 wins max in 15 games. And then we can, there's a lot of players out of contract in the summer, so we feel we can get our own stamp on the team as well. In the summer, a football club where it's a little bit like me, a little bit like not so much Solihull. Solihull was a little bit different, but Banbury was kind of spit and sawdust kind of place, heart on your sleeve, kind of. It's out like absolute miles away. If you've ever been to Barrow, it's absolutely miles away. You go to Manchester and you're still 2 hours away from Barrow. That's why we train in Manchester, because of kind of recruitment wise. So it's not too far from home anyway in terms of Manchester. Um, and again, I've been really lucky in terms of the last 7, 8, but even like the sort of last 4 or 5 years of my sort of football career, playing career, and my first 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years in terms of um, coaching and managerial career. I've been at home. I've spent a lot of time with the family and kids, etc. Um, so with football, you can't pick and choose what football club you're going to go to. So me and Pete, obviously, it's a big decision for both of us. We're leaving our families a lot during the weeks. It's a big decision for both of us and our families, but we just felt it was the right time for us to go and move on to be, manager and assistant manager at a League Two football club. That exposure, we're on Sky Sports. I think we're on Sky Sports in a local derby next week against Carlisle. That kind of exposure again as well. You're pitting your wits up against top managers who have been there, done it at a higher level as well. So, and we're continually learning as well. So it's it was just great timing, and we feel really comfortable here already. It's a great club to be at, and hopefully we can have as much success as we have had the last 3 or 4 years.
I presume when you were at Solihull, you were, and it's been a big discussion in the media recently, in favour of kind of the 3 up, 3 down from League Two or the National League. In fact, making it two automatic promotion chases, places, I should say. Already fumbled those words. Now you're at Barrow. Are you completely against 3 relegation spots from League Two?
No, not at all. Obviously, if we're in the lower echelons of the league, obviously it's one less space to be relegated. But I think the quality of that league now, it pretty much is League Three anyway. The amount of money that's being spent from teams, I think it kind of hinders a lot of clubs as well, like a Solihull who haven't got the spending powers of big teams like a Forest Green this year. York has spent a lot of money the last couple of years. Your Oldhams, I know these are big clubs with big fan bases as well. So obviously revenue's a lot different. But when was in there, it's for just one, the amount of money in the league, the quality of the league, and obviously just one up automatically. It's really really tough to get out of that league, as we found it last year, how we were finding it this year. It's a real tough league to get out of.
Mhm.
Um, you can see why a lot of teams as well struggle financially there as well, just because of one up, because they're so desperate to get back into League Two, and the funding that gives you. They probably outspend what their means back basically just to try and chase that top spot. So I do think the quality within the league. Being from the non-league, so the last 3 or 4 years, even was in National League North, the Southern League Prem with Banbury, only one goes up, one in there's 24 teams in the league, and it's really really tough tough to get out. Again, a lot of teams outspend their means because they're trying to get into that little percent of being a top spot.
Mm.
Um, so I think financially, I think the quality of the leagues are massively improving, and I do think it should be really three up, three down,
Yeah.
and give some big clubs who you've got Oldham who've played in the Premier League, you've got Rochdale, you've got massive club. A lot of them clubs now have been in the league already. So I think it gives them a massive opportunity to get back as well. So I think I'm definitely in favour of it anyway.
I think I agree with you there. And I'm sure you're going to give me a very professional answer to this question as manager of Barrow. But where do your managerial aspirations lie in the future? How high can you go?
Well, I think you've got when you well, you've got your sort of expectations have got you've got where you want to go right to the very top. Um, if I said that 4 years ago, at Banbury, you'd probably be laughing your head off. How are you going to get how are you going to get there? But we've got massive belief in where the ability in us as managing people, coaching tactically. I think managing people is the biggest one. I think look, we're not. Everyone's not going to like me because 9 times out of 10, if you're playing, you're going to like the manager. If you're not playing, you're going to dislike the manager. I was like that I respected every single manager I played for. If they're honest, they're upfront and said, this is why you're playing, this is why you're not playing, then, I can live with that. And I'm trying, sometimes it is really difficult to try and do that. Sometimes your players don't want to hear that. But managing people, we've had loads of success so far, you know, but I think if you start looking too far ahead, I've done that in my career. I've done that probably early parts of my coaching and managerial career, the way you think, I want to get to there. If you don't think of the now or you don't concentrate on the now, I say that to players all the time. If you think you're better than now and you're not putting in the effort in now, you're not going to get to where you want to get to. So we're always focus on the now. This is probably a professional answer, but this is what we do. We focus on the here and now. If we're thinking about getting to League One, League Championship, Premier League, or whatever, and our heads are in the clouds a little bit, we're not concentrating on the here and now. And football will chew you up and spit you out. It's the most ruthless, probably industry in the world. Especially when you're sort of lower leagues, you're not earning, the money that the Premier League players on. If you was to get sacked, you've got to find a job the next day. So we have to live in the moment. We have to concentrate on where we're at now. That's what we've done at Banbury. That's what we've done at Solihull, and it's got us this far. We're not going to change that now. I look at obviously, John Eustace's who have gone from Kidderminster all the way up. You look at Chris Wilder's who've gone from Halifax all the way up. I speak to Russell Slade a lot. He's such the nicest guy in the world. He's gone from Grimsby, Scarborough to managing sort of championship at high end. So it's been done. So but again, like so they're the aspirations. I want players playing under me to want to move to the next level because if they want to get to that next level, they've got to be good for us. We said that at Banbury, and players have gone on to League One, League Two, which is brilliant. Solihull players have gone on from League One to League Two. Hopefully, players can do exactly the same here. And if we get that, we kind of go together, which is great. So, yeah, we're just enjoying it at the minute, and hopefully, whatever happens, happens. But I think football's so ruthless and such a horrible industry, really. You just have to enjoy where you are, and see where that takes you.
Is the dream job a certain team in Sky Blue that could welcome you back with open arms when we're
I'd have to
when we're
wait
back in the Premier League, maybe?
yeah, obviously, that Frank's doing an unbelievable job at the minute. I thought Mark Romney's did an absolutely brilliant job. Um, for the football club to get it back to where it is now, from where they were, from where we were 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago it was an unbelievable achievement. I don't think that could be topped by anyone really. Just at the depths that
Mm.
Cov went to, Northampton, Birmingham City, playing at those places and to get up the leagues, get to an FA Cup semi-final and be like cheated out of it, so to speak. And then obviously Frank took over now. Hopefully he can, what Mark couldn't do, he's taken him up to that next step. Hopefully he can. That would be an absolute dream to obviously go full circle in obviously academy, youth team, getting released, scholar, playing the first team, scoring a goal at Highfield, last goal at Highfield Road, to then going and managing the club. That'd be unbelievable. Obviously, that's probably many, 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 many years away, but yeah, you've got to have aspirations. If you want to be the best football player, you've got to have the aspirations of playing in the Premier League or as high as you can. I just missed out on the Premier League. I was um, Championship, which is an unbelievable standard. But then I always thought my playing career was so boring. Can I have my managerial career or coaching career even better? So that's the aim anyway, and hopefully one day that you never know, that might happen.
And the final question I'm going to ask you today is, what are your thoughts on Frank Lampard as a manager? Because obviously he was that big star name, maybe got overly criticised at other clubs, has come to Coventry and started really, really well. You're a coach and a manager. What attributes does Frank Lampard have that you like or even dislike?
Obviously, like I'm probably different ends of the spectrum in terms of obviously Frank had an unbelievable playing career, like fantastic playing career.
Could
Obviously,
he have scored that goal though at Highfield Road? That's
nah,
what...
probably not. No, no chance. More tap-ins, wasn't he, Frank? Arriving later from midfield. He went a right back arriving
too
later.
far out for him, wasn't it?
Absolutely, but yeah, he's obviously different to obviously my style managerial career to his. Obviously he gets thrusted up into sort of top jobs because obviously the name, um, but that also there becomes massive pressure on him. I thought he'd done really really well at Derby, Chelsea when they couldn't spend, and he brought all the young players through. Um, Obviously then it sort of didn't materialise at sort of back end of Chelsea and then at Everton. So I think he's needed Coventry like Coventry probably needed him. I think he's a perfect fit. I think they both needed each other at the right time. But it was obviously really interesting to see how well he'd get on. Um, because you want him to do well. Obviously, one for the football club, you want him to do well, as well. 'Cause he seems like a top guy. I
Big
think he
shoes to
earns.
fill, obviously,
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely. Mark Robinson, an unbelievable job. Obviously, he gets the respect straight away from players. Where a little bit different from me. If I went to saying to a Coventry City, yes, I played for Coventry City, but that was donkeys years ago. He's been an England professional, like international top. He earns respect straight away. He doesn't even have to speak. He's got that aura about him. When I probably have to earn respect, I can't use my words to say I'm this, that, and the other. I have to show lads that they believe in me and they come with me, if you know what I mean, by how I am tactically, how I am on the training pitch, how I am as a person. He gets that sort of respect straight away because of who he is. But then that brings pressure of who he is as well, and I think he's done unbelievably well so far. Um, one loss in seven or eight, I think it is. Um, real great run the run. He's gone from sort of just outside the relegation zone to just outside the playoffs at the minute. So obviously we're an ex-Cov lad and having a massive affiliation for the club. You're desperate for him to do well because the football club obviously does well. And at the minute he looks like a perfect fit. Obviously time will tell going forward, but he's had a fantastic start and long may it continue.
Absolutely. Thanks very much for Andy for joining us. And what I said to you earlier, if you want respect from your players, get that tape out of the Highfield Road goal. First thing at training tomorrow. That's what I want to see.
I've probably got
Um,
more flying tackles than I have goals, but I will show that goal as well, maybe
Show them
one
that
day.
you could strike a ball. Thank you so much for spending
No
a bit of
worries.
your evening with us. It's been great having you on That Cov Pod. Make sure you like and subscribe to catch our next episode, and hopefully we'll have many more interviews like this to come. But that is it. Thank you very much again, Andy. Great to hear from you, and we'll see you next time.